Cool. Hello, Cassie Cameron. Welcome to the Spiritual Tradie podcast. I have a whole list of things that you do here. You are the founder of the Mile High Club. The
Mind
Mile
High
High Club.
Club.
Yep, the Mind High Club.
Mind High Club.
You are a model, a Psych K facilitator, and this is interesting because I've never met a Psych K facilitator before, and obviously a meditation teacher as well. So we'll get to all of those things a little bit later on. But obviously the first question I have to ask you is, how did you become spiritual?
Yeah, it's so funny because I think the term spiritual is pretty loaded, isn't it? It means something different to everyone. But for me, if I can relate that back to my understanding of that, which is an awakening and a realization of my true nature, is, well, this all started through suffering, essentially, which is, I think, a pretty common experience. So, I've always been interested in wellness and personal growth and so on. But what happened to me was I was working on my first business with my husband, Matt, and I'd never run a business before and was really learning everything on the fly. And at the same time, I was also flying internationally for photo shoots kind of every 6 weeks. And it was extremely hectic schedule, lots of working before the sun came up and working after it had gone down and all the flying. And I mean, looking back, it's just, I laugh because it's just funny. I mean, I don't know why. It was just trying to be all things to all people and really burning the candle at both ends. And at the same time as that, really, it was a very unconscious process of forgetting about the practices and things you need to do to stay grounded and balanced. And so I was extremely out of balance, but I was so just unaware of all of that I didn't see what was happening. So it was just sort of unfolding, and my body was in such a heightened state of stress, but I didn't even know it. And then one day, it was almost like, just everything hit me. And I realized, is this what burnout is? Am I experiencing burnout right now? And it was due to just pure overwork and really wearing myself down and not giving back to myself. So I was completely mentally, emotionally, physically drained and just had nothing left to give. And at that point, I realized I needed to make some lifestyle changes because the way I was living was simply unsustainable. And at that point, I still had I had some sort of curiosity about my, what else is out there and what is the universe all about, and had grown up in a religious household, but for me, it was extremely superficial, and I really hadn't connected very deeply at all with that side of myself. So I had no knowledge of that. So in this state, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to, you're like going, I need to do anything to change the way I'm feeling. And so at that point, went on this journey of looking within. How did I get here? Who am I? What am I even meant to do with my life? How can I reduce my stress? And so one of the first things I did was learn to meditate. And I couldn't have known how impactful that would have been. It truly changed my life. I was absolutely shocked at how profound the release of stress was. Within a matter of days, I dramatically reduced my anxiety and had more energy, starting to sleep better. And I went and did a bunch of other things too. I really looked at everything, went and saw a naturopath. I went and just went on this huge try everything journey. But with the meditation, what began to happen is it wasn't an instant thing for me. It was very gradual, but I realized that I wasn't my mind and I wasn't my emotions. I wasn't my job title, the model. I wasn't any of that stuff and any of my experiences. And it was so amazing to have that realization. And then I couldn't get enough of learning from all these different spiritual teachers. I started reading all these books and I got right into it.
You said that realization came gradually, or was there an experience or a moment where you were like, or is it just like constant little things that built up over time?
Yeah, it was pretty gradual, to be honest. I didn't have a aha moment. It was more just, as you know, with practicing meditation, it's like you start to notice little things. You start to notice, oh, I actually have a presence that's there. That's not the thoughts. That's witnessing the thoughts. And then from there, yeah, it was just a gradual awakening.
Great.
Yeah.
And so what other spiritual teachings or other teachings did you get into then, books and stuff like that?
Well, one of the first was Eckhart Tolle. And I remember when I read The Power of Now, that was huge for me at the time. This is years ago now. But yeah, that was amazing. And the way that he explained things was so simple and practical, really resonated with me. And from there, you know, I explored so many different things. I mean, you know, all the usual suspects. Like, I'm actually drawing a blank, but I've become, you know, interested in Vedic philosophy, interested in all the science behind things. I am a science nerd at heart. So things like, you know, I've dove into Bruce Lipton, Joe Dispenza, you know, all of the traditional manifesting coaches, all about how do the universal laws actually work? What is energy? I learned about kinesiology and became interested in the mind-body connection and mind-body-spirit connection. So there's a lot there. I'll probably remember all of the names of books after the podcast, but
yeah, cool. So what exactly is a Psych K facilitator? Because I've never heard of that before. So
yeah, Psych K, it's so funny. I'm always like, there are 101 ways to describe Psych K, but essentially it's a spiritual process with psychological benefits. And it was created by a guy called Rob Williams, who channeled it essentially, and heavily endorsed by Bruce Lipton, who's a famous stem cell biologist, who you may have heard of, and Joe Dispenza. And how it works is essentially, what you're doing is releasing stress and reprogramming limiting beliefs from your subconscious mind. And it draws on a bunch of different things. So, you know, brain dominance theory, creating a whole brain state, using muscle testing to communicate with your subconscious mind. So that's something we may be familiar with in kinesiology. And it's different energy psychology techniques, but it's quite a unique process, and it's very, very simple, and it's very powerful and effective. And it was honestly, when I trained as a facilitator, I just thought, oh, I'll just go and sort of get some basic knowledge, and ended up taking it all the way because I was just completely gobsmacked at the shifts people were experiencing. I was like, oh my God.
And so how did you facilitate that? Do you do like is it a session, or is it online, or is it intertwined with coaching and stuff like that? Or
yeah, you can do it in person or online. So yeah, it can be done remotely. And it's a very simple process. Basically, you identify, you know, what are you doing it for? You know, what do you hope to achieve? What kind of challenges are you facing, or what type of goals do you have? And then what you do is it's a bit of back and forth in terms of coaching and answering questions to really get to the root of something. And then when you have that, then use muscle testing to communicate with your subconscious mind, and then a series of simple processes and postures to create a whole brain state to then do what's called a Psych K balance. And each balance takes, you know, can take a few seconds sometimes, or a few minutes, and that's one balance, and you just do as many as are needed to resolve the issue.
Right, cool, awesome. And what about the Mind High Club? How did that start? What's that all about?
Yeah, Mind High Club was directly related to the journey I just spoke to you about. So throughout that process, I had, you know, a handful of key people that really helped me to transform my life and really awaken, essentially, and really step into this kind of version 2.0 whatever. And you know, those people were so impactful, and I was so grateful and blown away to have had them in my life, that I knew that I was here to do something in line with that. And actually one day in a meditation, it's almost like I was given this clear, very clear vision, and it was just, I knew I needed to do it. And so I've just followed that. And essentially what Mind High Club is connecting all types of different personal growth, well-being, spiritual healers, you know, experts, practitioners, coaches, you know, whatever you can think of, basically, connecting them with you depending on what you are after, you know. So there's so many brilliant, talented people all over the world, and some of them are maybe just not great at marketing themselves. And if they would be able to connect with so many different people and transform lives. And oh my God, has it ever been more needed? You know, so now's the time, and yeah, really excited about it.
So you share a lot of content and interview a lot of people on that platform, Mind High Club?
Yeah, so, you know, we have a lot of content. We're doing lots of live interviews and stuff like that, but we're currently underway building an actual platform where experts can facilitate their bookings and get connected with people that are specifically seeking them, you know. So it's like, okay, I'm looking for someone like Daniel, here you go.
Great.
You know?
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Cool.
Yeah. And what about the manifesting thing coming up? What's that all about?
Yeah, that's something so exciting. So Christy, my business partner, and I decided, you know, just intuitively that this was a really fun thing to do, to engage with our community, give back, and something we felt we needed to create. So what that's all about is, you know, for those of you that are listening that aren't familiar with manifesting, it's a kind of fancy or weird way, or I don't know, of saying, you know, achieving what it is that you desire in your life, or stepping into version 2.0. And so what's involved in that is, it's in a nutshell, all of the practices and things that we've done in our lives to manifest the things that we're grateful for now. And this is a mixture of different tools, techniques, meditations, whatever. It's different every day, and it's just in bite-sized video, audio, or activities every day. And we have a community to all just cheer each other on. And yeah.
Cool. When does that one start?
So it launches on the 23rd of August. We're taking pre-sales now. But after that, you can join at any time, but official launch date for like everyone that's ready to go is on the 23rd. So not long now.
Cool. And are they run regularly, or is it going to be something you can access after it's been run, like later on as a thing?
Yeah, you can access it at any time. So you can start when you're ready. We're a huge group of us are kicking off on the 23rd, but whenever you're ready, you can join. It's evergreen, and then you'll be connected with a like-minded community in a Facebook group, so you can kind of connect and kind of ask questions and cheer each other on. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Do you have anything in there for manifesting the end of lockdown?
Oh,
we might need it.
That's either a really simple question or a super deep question.
Yeah.
You know, essentially, I think this is a really good time for this, because if you are in lockdown, and my God, you know, we're all experiencing this very differently and to varying degrees, but now is the time to be doing this stuff, so we can really move past any type of fear and anxiety, and really look at what do we actually want to create in the world? What type of reality do we want to have, rather than a reality that's determined by someone else?
Absolutely. I've been reading the Bhagavad Gita lately, and I know that you're also a little bit of a Vedic nerd as for knowledge as well. I feel like we're actually in the Bhagavad Gita right now, where you've got in that story, you've got Arjuna, who is half of the family, and everything gets locked down. He sits down on the battlefield and just stops in the middle of the argument, middle of the fight. And I feel like that's where we are right now. And you know, if we fight against you know, the darkness, then it might be that we're going to war with people that we love, you know. So it's a very similar like model. And I'm not saying, you know, I don't know completely how to wrap it around that story, but it's just interesting to me. It's like I feel like we have to in that story, it's establish yourself first, be without the world, go inside, establish yourself, and then come out and fight for what's right. And I feel like sometimes when we're doing this work, it can be easy to detach and be like, well, everything's just happening separate from me, because it is. But also we have to still connect to what's right for us and stand for that, because as much as we do manifest by what we think and how we create from that place, we also create from our actions. And I'm sure that's a part of your course and your understanding as well. So it's very interesting to read that book at this particular time and be like, whoa, what's actually happening here? What's
Are we
going
in
on?
it? Yeah,
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more with what you're saying, and whew, and that, I mean, how I view the situation is, we do need to start with ourselves. Just as you said, we do need to really start with our own state of consciousness. So therefore our action is more impactful. And instead of, creating an other and creating a further divide, it's about being the light and being out there and taking action, but not in a combative way. So yeah, I feel like that's how I tend to approach things, because it can feel like there's a lot of issues. Shit.
Yes.
Where do you even start? But yeah, it does start with the self, for sure. And yeah, as you said, that doesn't mean being quiet and shutting up and being not partaking, but I think it's, the nature of how we are partaking from what state of consciousness we are participating.
Yes, very interesting discussion, and a very interesting time right now. I guess the world we've never experienced this before. Whether whatever side of the story you take, whatever perspective you have on what's happening, the world, I don't think we've ever been so divided, so vocally divided. And yeah, but
Yeah.
I'm hoping that it comes around to unity in the end, that love will pull us through. So
yeah, totally. It's almost like, just as you said, it's just, we need to be able to listen to everyone's opinion with respect and respect alternative points of view. If we don't have any dissenting points of view in society, I would consider that quite a dangerous society.
yeah.
So I think that if I've been from what I've been observing and witnessing just out there in general, very general statement, but how can we respect other people's points of view and opinions? Because at the end of the day, and particularly when it comes to Psych K, the understanding on a scientific level is our perception is our reality. And when we're speaking to people, someone else's perception of reality is, God, layer upon layer of how many different things. So we need to really respect that their reality is not ours, and be able to speak our truth, but respectfully receive someone else's. That's that's how I see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have anything else that you'd like to share about what you do?
How long have you got? No, I'm kidding. Yeah, look, what I do is essentially Mind Heart Club's my baby and vision, and I feel like is really what I'm meant to be doing right now, with everything going on. And that's kind of it.
Yeah. Have you been to many spiritual sites around the world on your travels?
Spiritual sites. Oh, you can
Yeah.
probably tell me more about that.
Have you been to any, like India or anything like that?
No, I would absolutely love to, though. I really would.
Right.
You can probably speak to that more than me.
I can speak to that, but I was just wondering about your experience.
Yeah, no, I've traveled a lot of different places, either kind of on holiday or on photo shoots. So I have gone to some super remote and awesome, cool places, but most of the time it's in and out. And I think I was like, where's my next place? And then lockdown. So
yeah, right.
That'll have to wait. But India is for sure on the list. Oh my
Beautiful.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we can ever go back there. Come on, guys, let us out. The last one is, what is your favorite spiritual wisdom or quote?
Yeah, that's such a good question. There are so many, but honestly, I think it comes back to simplicity. And one of my favorite things is just as simple as "Be Here Now" by Ram Dass. Because when we're in the present moment and we're fully here, we're in being, all these other stories and all these other things aren't there. And that's where we can be impactful and really connect with our truest nature. So I think all this, we can accumulate all this knowledge. And, you know, I'm really guilty of over intellectualizing a lot of things because it's just interesting, and you know, you get curious, and I'm a total nerd. So yeah, it's like when I pulled away from that and really came back more and more and more and more into the present moment in each moment, that's where all the pieces, all the joy, all the bliss, all the love, and all the things that we need to be accessing right now in order to be effective in the world. So for me, my journey has been like, I was laughing about this with my friend actually, where we were all like, where is it? Like looking everywhere. And then funniest thing ever, because when that moment happened, where I was like, oh, it's now. That's it. That's all. And it's like the funniest cosmic joke in the world. So yeah, that's where I always come back to, just that. And if we can just do that. Yeah.
One question I have, I like your wisdom or quote. One question I have, particularly for you, because you have you do so much stuff through Insta and stuff like that. How do you balance the thing that pulls us away from the present moment the most with your, like, you know, with your life?
Yeah, that's such a goodie. And I was actually really inspired to create a video on that the other day, which I'm going to share, because how can we use social media consciously? It's my perspective is, and I'm sure yours is, nothing is inherently good or bad, but it's the way in which we use it or interact with it. So when it comes to social media, that's been a part of, you know, as a job, my job as a model, you know, it's part of your job description. It's literally like on your profile. So you absolutely had to use it at that time. And I was so resistant to it for a really long time. When I finally embraced it, I realized, wow, we can really, this can be a bit of a devil, this thing, but we can also use it for good. And so what I've started to do is I have a few kind of ways that I've learned to use it, which is, just practicing awareness with how we're using it. So not like, are you aimlessly scrolling? Just becoming aware of that. Are you bringing your phone with you to the dinner table? Are you taking it to the bathroom? You know, like, is your phone attached to your arm like an extension of your body? And just that starts with awareness, which meditation can help with, as you know. And so there's that, but there's also being aware of what you're watching, reading, listening to. Are the things that you're engaging with actually helpful and uplifting for you? Are they, you know,
not always.
Are they, yeah. So looking at what that's an awareness thing too. Is this expansive? Because there are actually some incredible resources on social. There are inspiring people. There are great messages. Social media can bring together groups of people, and stuff can, you know, we can mobilize each other to actually get important information out there, which may have otherwise been censored. Well, that's a whole nother discussion. But yeah, there's that, but there's also, how are you using it to spread your light, you know? And that's something I've really been, I couldn't figure out how to do for the longest time. And then I was like, you know what, I just need to really go out there and share my authentic self and share the light and what I know, and the hopes that it's going to uplift other people. And if we can all do that, and we can all share the love and use it consciously, we can really make it a good thing. And also just the awareness of how long we're spending on it, of course, as I said. But also what I've noticed more than ever recently is, as you said, we're divided in our communications, our points of view at the moment around quite a few things. And I've noticed the tendency for people to, in a state of stress or fight or flight, to take out their frustrations on other people on social media. But the problem with that is that, yeah, we're creating this divide. So how can we share a point of view and then respect the point of view of others also? How can we do that on social media and have a conscious relationship with it and discussion that's not like fighting amongst ourselves, when it needs to be all of us kind of, you know, going with the world's problems. So yeah. For sure.
And that's one thing I think before we started this was speaking about, and I've been doing videos, and I'm trying to keep that in mind. I want to bring awareness to things that are happening and keep them within a parameter of things that are actually happening, a couple of things that might be coming, and not get too caught up in the there's an evil force trying to take over us, or this person's necessarily bad, or like, you know, because it's so easy to be like, I feel pain for people that are locked in Melbourne or locked in Victoria, and I want to blame someone. And so Daniel Andrews is a target, so I can just project onto him. But really, it's a horrible job to have. No one wants to be the premier of anywhere, especially in this time, you know. And so I feel for him too. And so it's difficult, you know. You want to express yourself, but you just got to keep in mind that you wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of that either. So yeah, it's a fine line to balance.
Yeah, it's tough and it's easier said than done. We all fall into it and we do get triggered in that emotional charge. But I think the greatest piece of wisdom I received recently was I did an in-depth kind of course with Eckhart Tolle. So we're doing live Q&As, and he's been, you know, one of the first teachers I had that inspired me on this path. So that was amazing. And one of the things he shared was specifically around social media. Which has been great because I'm like, how do we navigate this? And it was about making sure that you do say, hey, you know, this problem that we have needs to be addressed. These are the facts. This is what's going on. This is how I feel about it. And then if people kind of understand, that's okay. But, you know, it's important that we're respectfully sharing that. And I think that was the key point, because if you are a quote unquote light worker or whatever, it's, as I think I keep coming back to, it's important you are out there and sharing that light, and not pretending, I guess, that there's nothing going on, because then we wouldn't be participating, but saying, you know what, this is the answer. So even if we are getting into arguments on social media, it's almost like the recognition that the other person on the other side of your screen is someone that's likely suffering, they're likely experiencing stress, likely that they're doing the very best they can in the state of consciousness that they have. And so the answer always comes back to, well, how can we all expand our state of consciousness? And then that always comes back to, how can you expand your own consciousness? And that's where I always just keep arriving back at, okay, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah. And I guess one of the other things is, how can I bring forth a problem or an argument that doesn't polarize the person that's hearing it, as if they're someone that maybe hasn't noticed the thing that I'm bringing to their awareness? How can I say it in a way that they don't have to believe me, but they can just hold that idea and then test it out in the field with, you know, other ideas. And maybe one day they'll be like, oh, this is the thing that I heard, whether it's me or somebody else say, and just present a message in a way that's not attacking them for believing whatever they believe, you know, I guess. Where you see a lot of that, particularly in politics, and like, if you have this idea, then you're that kind of person, where it's not that simple. It's not that simple to just put people in boxes like that. We're way more complex.
Yeah, well, I think the way you do it is great, because, you know, I think as long as our message is just coming from a place of truth and an understanding that we're all in this together, and it's not attacking or kind of making someone else wrong, I think that's absolutely acceptable. And we don't all have to agree with each other. So I feel like if we're sharing our truth, and then someone else is not able to agree or accept that, then okay, that's up to them, you know, and that's going to happen. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, what about teaching meditation? Because obviously that's how I found you on the One Giant Mind calls. So, yeah, how long have you been doing that for?
Oh, when did I finished my training last year. It was amazing. Yeah, and just I love those calls. Such a great group of people. Yeah, and it's been amazing just to witness. I love the courses because you just witness people really releasing so much stress, dropping their anxiety, just having that aha moment, going, oh, I can actually meditate, you know, especially people that have busy minds, or they're like, do you hear this all the time where people say, I can't meditate, and all that.
I think too much. Yeah.
And it's like, oh boy, do I have the technique for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's been incredible, and what a beautiful experience to share. And especially during, you know, COVID and all that. And yeah, just loving it. And it's just such a beautiful experience. I think when you're learning to teach anything, you kind of go on this amazing deep dive yourself. So that's been such a gift. I love it.
Yeah. Are you running courses currently?
Yeah, I'm paring back my teaching a bit because we've got a lot going on with the business, but I am teaching as part of my coaching program that I do one-on-one, which is pretty intensive, which I adapt. But yeah, I'm definitely still doing it. And also during COVID and stuff, I've, you know, helped out a lot of people by teaching them who were, you know, perhaps, you know, unemployed or people that were not so well and things like that. So that's been so cool just to be able to do that. But yeah, when people approach, I'm teaching.
Great. And so you're coaching as well. Do you do that to entrepreneurs? Is that right?
Yeah, so I work mainly with entrepreneurs. I've worked with lots of different types of people, but I found my particular niche was with entrepreneurs because that's been part of my own story, and I really understand a lot of the experiences. And also my husband, Matt, is an entrepreneur. And so I've got kind of two people's experiences that I'm able to draw on. And I also find that that a lot of their challenges, I just know them, you know. So there's all the stress, and then there's the limitations around you know, challenges, conflict, any subconscious limiting beliefs around deservingness of success and so on, which can be huge. I mean, the results I've seen are just nuts. It's kind of like people are like, oh no, that's not true. I'm like, well, it is, it's just nuts. But it's, you know, it's them doing the healing themselves. It's their journey. You know, I'm holding space for them to up level, and they're usually pretty driven and willing to get in there and get uncomfortable and do the work. So it's really, really fun. Like, I've had some awesome clients. So cool.
I was going to say, is it easier to coach entrepreneurs because they're self-motivated?
I wouldn't say easier. I mean, I've worked with lots of different people. Generally, entrepreneurs are really fun to work with because they come in with just some really kick-ass goals, you know, and even if they are experiencing lots of stress, they're going from good to great, and they're really quite open, you know, and willing to step out of their comfort zone a bit, because like Kay is a bit weird, well, in the best way. But yeah, it's fun as well because you get to see them doing pretty big things and expanding to this whole new level, and it's like pretty tangible results. So you go, okay, like you can see numbers, you can see stuff happening, and you're like, this has to be real. This is nuts.
Great, amazing. So that's it. Unless you have any questions. How do we find you?
How do you find me? Well, you can connect with me. Probably best place is Instagram. I'm quite active on there. So bit of a mouthful, Cassie _Cameron_, or through Mind High Club. So if you're into all this stuff, interviewing lots of different people all the time, doing live sessions on Mind High Club's Instagram. So check that out as well.
Awesome. Cool.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining me. Until next time.
Yeah,
Bye.
awesome.